From the pages of The West, April 1969, Diamond Lil'S Sparkling Smile. Many ladies have made a flamboyant contribution to history, but one can be safe in saying none shed as much glitter with their pretty smiles as did Poker Nell and Diamond Tooth Lil. Diamond Tooth Evelyn Hildegard was born in Australia. She came to America and danced her way from coast to coast. In her travels, she met all types of men, one being a dentist in Reno, Nevada. She claimed they bet on a horse race, and she won. He paid off with a diamond, which she had him in bed in her golden sizer. Henceforth, she was known as Diamond Tooth Lil. Poker Nell got her name from the game in which she was so proficient. History has recorded no other name for her, and though she had 2 large diamonds in her upper front teeth, her name was not changed thereby. Dr. Will Frackleton put the scintillating smile on her face. Poker Nell had set up an appointment with Dr. Frackleton, and when she arrived, she showed him the 2 diamonds and asked, "Can you put these in my teeth?" His reply, "I can, but it won't be easy, and it will hurt." But that didn't deter her. She handed the diamonds, each one was half a carat, to the dentist and said, "I want it done. I want to show the dames hereabouts a thing or two." One can only wonder whether she had seen Diamond Tooth Lil and merely wanted to outshine her. Whatever the reason, she got the job done by Dr. Will Frackleton in Casper, Wyoming. The young dentist later said of the case, "The ladies got their eyes opened, and the town medics were horrified at what I had done." Setting the diamonds in Poker Nell's teeth was the first of Dr. Frackleton's many innovations in dentistry. The diversifying dentist was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on June 24, 1870. He graduated from Northwestern University Dental School in 1891, and after 2 years of practice in Milwaukee and Chicago, he headed west. From the time he landed in Sundance, Wyoming, until his death in 1943, he was a loyal Westerner. In 1893, Sundance was laid out according to the pattern of the period, one street. It had its hotel, courthouse, and jail. Sandwiched between were the stores, saloons, and barber shops, all with their false fronts. Like most frontier towns, Sundance had its newspaper, and it carried an advance announcement of the doctor's arrival. For this reason, he was bewildered to find the streets empty when he arrived. He later admitted he thought there would be patients waiting in line for him. He headed for the saloon to get the news and make a few contacts, but he found the drinking place deserted too. The bartender explained, "Everyone is over at the fire station watching a banker polishing off a few cowhands." His words reminded the newcomer of the days when he fought under the name of Willie Riley. He remembered his trainer had encouraged him to make boxing his career, but he wanted to be a dentist. He had taken up boxing to put himself through dental school. After that, he wanted no part of it. But it wouldn't hurt to watch a fight. In fact, he would enjoy it. So off to the fire station he went, arriving just in time to see the banker strutting about after KOing his latest victim. Dr. Frackleton was spotted the moment he walked in. His Eastern clothes set him apart from the rest of the crowd. His black fedora, black tie, wing collar, and cutaway spelled out "City Dude." That brought an instant challenge from the battling banker. "Would you like to put on the gloves with me?" he asked Frackleton. "Oh, I'm afraid I'm a novice at defending myself," the dentist replied. When the banker persisted, Frackleton evaded the challenge gracefully. "Strange surroundings," he said. "Too many spectators tonight. Maybe at a later date." But the banker insisted on naming the time and place for a friendly few rounds. Then he went about for days bragging how he was going to lick the City Dude. When Dr. Frackleton learned from his new friend, the bartender, that the whole town would be at the fight, he gave the drink merchant his last $200. "Charlie, talk up this fight," he urged. "Take bets on me to win. Bet it all." Charlie thought the kid was crazy, but he did as he was told. And after the fight was over, he was glad he did. The City Dude won, and in winning, he also won the respect of everyone in Sundance, including the banker. Through the years, the frontier dentist fought his way out of other difficulties. He liked Sundance, but business was slow. He was eager to ply his trade, eager to make some money. So when he heard that Sheridan was booming, he decided that that was a place for him. And in Sheridan he lived and practiced for 50 years, with an exception of a year in Alaska and his circuit practice. Arriving in Sheridan, Dr. Freckleton checked into the hotel, the best hotel, the Sheridan Inn. It was newly built by George Canfield of Omaha. Canfield was a personal friend of William F. Cody, so that staying at the Sheridan Inn was like stepping into a Buffalo Bill Cody museum. In 1893, Sheridan was no different than other Wyoming boomtowns. Strangers were accepted with no questions asked. It was assumed everyone was there to widen the western frontier and to make a new life or career. Since this was what Freckleton wanted, he wasted no time in getting an item into the Sheridan Post, which read, Dr. William Freckleton, dentist, is now at Sheridan Inn, prepared to perform all dental operations in the most scientific and painless manner. He comes highly recommended from the adjoining towns in which he had done work, and refers to many well-known citizens for whom and for whose families he has done work in Sundance, Wyoming, where he has been practicing for the past month. Several years ago in Cleveland, Ohio, was introduced to the dental home care program, which brings the dentist to the patient. This program is said to have been the first of its kind in the nation, but not really, for Will Freckleton put into practice the same type of program when he rode circuit with all his dental equipment. He often related, if the cowpunchers couldn't come to me because of the roundups, I would go out to them. Aside from the cowpunchers, there were many other rural folk who were unable to get into Sheridan. For that reason, Dr. Freckleton, in his buckboard drawn by a team of Morgans, was a welcome sight to country folk in need of dentistry. Dr. Freckleton arrived in Sheridan during a Wyoming blizzard. The town buzzed with gandy dancers, contractors, and other workers of the Burlington and Missouri Railroad, which had been laid through Sheridan. By the late summer, the railroad had extended beyond the Montana boundary line. The running of this rail line made Sheridan burst at the seams. Business zoomed for everyone, including Dr. Freckleton. He had his patients and friends, folks in all branches of life: convicts, scholars, cowpunchers, hobos, poets, outlaws, and professors. Other patients were titled Englishmen, paupers, millionaires, prostitutes, and lady gamblers, as well as male gamblers and lawmen. Life on the frontier was so raw that every able-bodied man packed a gun or rifle. Dr. Freckleton was no exception. He practiced shooting until he was a skilled marksman. He carried his gun in a little black medical bag when he was on his circuit practice. He could never be sure when he would have a need for it. For somewhere in this wild and woolly Wyoming area was the hideout of the hole-in-the-wall gang of train robbers and cattle thieves. Sure enough, the lively dentist became involved with this gang. It all came about when he and an optician friend decided to team up to ride the circuit together, and it was while they were practicing at one of the ranches that the stage driver told them they were needed over at Anderson's hog ranch. When the alert dentist noticed the request was accompanied by a wink, he wanted to hear more. He had a private talk with the driver, who told him that the hole-in-the-wall gang were up there. He knew that for a fact they had made a new haul, probably from the recent Union Pacific holdup. Since bandits were no different than other patients to professional men, Dr. Freckleton was intrigued by the idea of going to the hog ranch. However, he had his optician friend made such a good haul of their own that they received a tip that the gang intended to roll them. They devised a way to escape. The leader of the hole-in-the-wall gang was Butch Cassidy. However, Harvey Logan provided to be the brains of the raiders. Another of the gang was Harry Longabaugh, otherwise known as the Sundance Kid, who bragged he liked to watch the expression on the face of a victim he had just plugged. Western history reveals that gunslingers killed for various reasons. Some killed in self-defense, some for personal gain, and some deadly men killed for the sheer pleasure of killing. Dr. Freckleton met and knew them all. It was during his years in Skagway that the adventurous dentist became a member of a vigilante and successfully cleaned up on Soapy Smith's gang. Another run-in with outlaws happened right after his place right in his place of business. He returned to his office one day to find one of the Perry gang who told the dentist his teeth were raising hell. He locked the door, handed the doctor $100, and said, "You have to get to fix them up." The dentist opened the door long enough to put out the out-of-town sign, and then when he closed the door, he threw the latch and requested that his patient take off his guns. The gunman was in too much pain to argue the point. Not only did Dr. Frackleton work on the outlaw that day, but he had him come back for 2 other appointments, for which he paid Dr. Will an additional $100. All of the doctor's patients were not as exciting, but some of them contributed a bit of humor. One he had pulled a tooth for, a man in pain, and a few minutes later the fellow was back in the office, this time with his wife, who demanded that the tooth be put back in. Then Dr. Frackleton did. 12 years later, the man came to see the dentist. He still had the tooth. It had never bothered him, yet he wanted it extracted. The dentist asked him why, and he found out. His wife had recently died, and now, he explained, I can have my own way. Another case involved a patient that the dentist found in his room when he arrived at home very late one night. The cowboy was drunk and passed out. With the help of a friend, the dentist examined the mouth of the unconscious one and found 2 teeth needing extracting. He pulled them both, and because the patient needed fresh air, they took him outside and sat him down, backed against a building. The next morning they found he had disappeared. However, a few months later, the cowboy came back and paid the dentist for the extractions. When a person had a toothache in those days, they tried anything to ease the pain until they could get to the dentist. One patient told Dr. Frackleton he had to go relief by using corn medicine. The dentist, being a curious man, looked up the ingredient of the corn medicine. It proved to contain arsenic. He knew this was what had devitalized the nerve in that tooth. Dr. Will Frackleton's life was one of colorful drama. He lived in a dramatic era. His friends and his foes were the men and women who have read so much about. He hobnobbed with Buffalo Bill Cody, President Taft, and other men of renown. In addition to Poker Nell, he had as a patient Calamity Jane, and other women whose life stories go to make up the TV dramas of today. Not to mention Soapy Smith and the Sundance Kid, as well as other infamous characters. In 1895, Dr. Frackleton married Miss Bessie Snelling, whom he met the second winter he was in Sheridan. They had a long and happy marriage. Bess, as he called her, shared all of his interest wholeheartedly. The Frackletons were very civic-minded. The doctor was one of the community's most avid leaders. He also spent a great amount of time among the Crow tribe, learning their language and customs. He was adopted into the tribe. Dr. Frackleton was the holder of dental license number 2 in the state of Wyoming. In 1905, he became the first president of the first dental board. He also was prominent in the act of drawing up the first real dental laws in Wyoming. Dr. Will was the oldest practicing dentist in the state of Wyoming until he became too ill to continue, and that was in 1943. The year before, he had been presented with a gold certificate from Northwestern University for being in continuous practice for 50 years. The venerable doc died December 28, 1943. He came to Wyoming when he was very, very young, and then Wyoming was also very, very young. And as he matured, he watched Wyoming mature, and it gave the good doctor and citizen of this great state much, much pleasure.